He really worked within his allotted time, leaving me about 1 minute just for the next group to come forward. So we're going to have an interview between Andrew Leary as well as Heidi Walters around the economic impact of building new trails. So Heidi and Andrew, if you could join us. I think we're also going to need a microphone for them to share amongst themselves while they're chatting. Oh, it's right here. One thing I will say is that my husband is committed to trails in our neighborhood in Cherry Hill. I can appreciate how important they are. We have a trail that runs through the back of our house, and it's amazing how they focus on improving the quality of the trails and the regular maintenance associated with it. So really excited to hear about your conversation. So, Heidi and Andrew, turn it to you.
Thanks, Greg. Hey again, everybody. Long time no see. I just want to take a quick second. Thank you. I just want to take a quick second to introduce Heidi Walters from Visit NC from North Carolina. What North Carolina is doing around the outdoors and making outdoor experiences sustainable through infrastructure investment is really incredible. And so that's what we're going to be chatting with you and certainly the start of a conversation. So to kick things off, Heidi, can you tell us a little bit about what's North Carolina been up to for the last couple of years with trail infrastructure?
Sure. Well, like most places that have outdoor spaces, the last few years have been packed, right? Record visits from visitors and from residents. And because of North Carolina's proximity to so much of the East Coast population, we really saw a big influx over the pandemic time. So, you know, it's great that our leaders have seen what this means to us and how important it is to the economy of North Carolina, and have really put an investment into building more of our trail infrastructure.
So of all the infrastructure that you could have put in, I mean, North Carolina is a mecca for the outdoors. You have the coast, you have the Piedmont area, you have the mountains, and you have virtually every single type of outdoor recreation imaginable. So why trails in particular?
Well, I think, there's so many benefits of being outdoors, right? And so many benefits of being on trails, whether they be paddle trails or hiking trails or horse trails, any kind of trails. Just the benefits of that. And, it's one of those issues that cross party lines, so it's not divisive at all. And it's always been a very big part of what North Carolina has portrayed, both in economic development, in quality of life, attracting companies, but in also tourism.
Trails represent an amazing opportunity to focus on health and economy and environment and your community, and they're all woven together. They're not independent silos. How many people here have been out on a trail in the last 2 years in some way, shape, or form? It is something that is can be so accessible. Not every trail is accessible. They can be accessible. And we'll talk about accessibility here in a little bit. But I think this slide just touches on some of those benefits that you get. Why trails? Why think about this as something moving forward that you can do? So, Heidi, I'm wondering if you can share maybe like a success story, what's been going on maybe at the local level with some of the communities that have taken this dive into the trail infrastructure.
Absolutely. We have one community in particular who has really excelled at bringing themselves back through trails. There's a little town called Elkin, and it's in our wine country valley, just outside the mountains. And they saw a big decrease in manufacturing and employment over the last decade. And it really has, made the town sort of a ghost town. But they realized that they're so close to so many outdoor public lands that they wanted to connect those trails, whether they be paddle trails or hiking trails. And it's all part of our Mountains to the Sea Trail, which goes all across the state. So they've capitalized on that, and they've really marketed the trails to a point where they now have a new hotel. They have coffee shops. They've got restaurants coming in, and people are coming back, and industry is coming back. But it all started with this trail and being quality of life for these people who live there.
Do you think in the Elkin example, has that trail brought in perhaps new people who had never gone to Elkin prior?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because Elkin was never really known as much of a tourist destination, except that it is close to some wineries. But yes, all because of the trails.
It's really incredible. I think the pandemic shined a light on this. I mean, there's been data for years about what engagement in the outdoors looks like and how people recreate and where they choose to recreate and what they choose to do. But significant data coming out of the pandemic from the Outdoor Industry Association and many organizations like it was to poll people, like essentially asking the question, how likely are people who are considered new participants in the outdoors or to outdoor activities to continue after the pandemic? And for everybody who raised their hand that spends time on trails, for everybody who raised their hand earlier to say, yes, we promote the outdoors, there is something about the outdoors that breathes life into us. And I think this data reflects that so many people that got into outdoor activities, and I will call these low-tech outdoor activities, running, biking, fishing, bird watching. I mean, this isn't rock climbing, this isn't mountaineering, this isn't some extreme sport, although you could argue that bicycles cost about as much as a new car these days. But for the most part, these are accessible forms of the outdoors, and these are things that people are doing very close to home. This isn't going into people aren't going into the backcountry, trekking in for 2 weeks so they can go on a 2-hour run and then coming back a month later. They're going on a run outside their house. They're going on a run outside their hotel. And I would fair to guess that Elkin saw a large percentage of these types of people spending time there. And these trends are going to continue to grow. There have been some areas where things have started to taper off a little bit. National parks and state parks are still seeing huge increases in their percentage of visitors year to year. But it's not equal. It's not this 100% across the board, and there are a lot of different factors that go into it. The big takeaway from this, though, is that the outdoors are here to stay. There's a revolution in the pandemic that brought about the outdoors and more engagement there, and that's really important to recognize. So, Heidi, I wonder if you could share a little bit, how does this vast trail network that North Carolina has, and there's a map up for everybody, and this certainly does not include the thousands of miles of individual trails in state parks, in the national parks, in counties, but these are large statewide trails. How does this help to support the visitor population that's coming to the state?
Well, it again gives them another thing to do. And, I work for Visit North Carolina, and what we have done, as long as we've been in existence, is talk about natural beauty and soft adventure. Well, that's what we have, and that's what we need to capitalize on. And this trail infrastructure that we have really touches, in one way or another, all 100 counties of North Carolina, which is great then for all of the economies throughout the state. And I think that, as I said earlier, it really crosses the lines of the legislature. So that's why we get this great funding, and that's why, it is what we are. And we are outdoors in the East Coast. And I think that a lot of people would agree with that. So.
And when we're talking about trails, we're not just talking about footpaths. We're talking about waterways. We're talking about all the ways that people travel from point A to point B in the outdoors, rail trails. There are a lot of spaces that have the potential for trail infrastructure or have always had trail infrastructure. And on top of that, trails are fantastic because they provide this very durable resource that millions of people can walk on or roll on or utilize pack animals or whatever it might be, whatever form of locomotion people are choosing to have, trails are very durable. And trails are constructed with purpose. For anybody here who's ever been curious, like, what's the science behind trail making? There is a big, big science and a big industry behind trail making. The people that build trails, especially in North Carolina, are very talented at what they do. And that also brings in the opportunity to make trails as accessible as possible. There are certainly some trails that we call single track that are the width of a human shoulders. That's a single track trail. There are double wide trails. There are all these different names for all different trails. But the purpose and intention behind trails allows for accessibility for everybody to be able to spend time there no matter what style of locomotion they choose to have. And Heidi, I wonder if you could tee up the video that we're going to show here about accessible trails in North Carolina.
Sure. It is definitely something that we want to continue to grow in North Carolina, is this accessibility issue. We have some wonderful trails that are paved and lead right out to a waterfall. We also have places at the coast where you can take a wheelchair out onto the beach. So we are working on it. We're not all the way there yet, but we do have this really unique place in the mountain region for mountain biking. And we invited a film crew this one day for this one event that was taking place, and I think we can show that now.
My son's 11, and he loves to be outdoors. Mountain biking is his thing. I was the one who taught him how to ride it. I was the one who was walking alongside him and like that. I had really thought that any kind of biking that involved slope was really out of the question. And as recumbent mountain bikes, I didn't have to worry about tipping over. I could do a lot more. They'll get me seated in it. They'll strap me in. They'll show me how everything works. Yeah, that's about as far as I can go. As I get more into the adaptive mountain biking, I'm really looking forward to the opportunity for the two of us to go mountain biking together. It's so special to him.
Trail etiquette. We want to stay on the trail. That's the biggest thing for us. We also yield to hikers or people on foot. Any questions at all? All right, go on fun. Go on good.
It was gorgeous. It was a beautiful day. Really forested trails. None of them were straight up or straight down, which was fantastic for me.
Nice.
Beautiful deep forest.
It's awesome. Quite awesome. Like riding your bike. It's good. Yeah, we do a mountain bike together. It's quite a bit fun. It was nice just to wait up for us.
Make us free. They freak me out. I'm just trying to find new ways to do it. If somebody can show up with the equipment, show them how to use it, and give me an opportunity, that expands my activity so much. I'd love to explore anywhere that I can do something, especially in North Carolina.
There is a lot of potential for trails to make a difference in the lives of residents and visitors and literally everybody who can spend time out on these trails. And what's great, again, these aren't access points that are 2 weeks away from people. We're not trekking into the Himalayas going to base camp. These are things that are accessible to adjacent urban areas and all the places that people come to spend time when they visit your destination. So, if trail building is related to sustainability, which it is, we're investing in a community, we're investing in a very durable resource that allows people to explore the outdoors in a responsible way. What's the return on this investment? That's kind of the million-dollar question. What's the return on sustainability in general? So, Heidi, I wonder if you could talk a little bit on the return that North Carolina has seen through some of these trail projects in the last 5 years.
Sure. Some of the things that we see are, as I mentioned with Elkin, just the fact that by building these trails, we see companies coming in and setting up shop in those smaller communities. We also, see more and more folks as we alluded to. Just because kids didn't have organized sports for a while doesn't mean that then they're not going to go back outside. Everybody's still coming back outside after they go to soccer practice or anything else. And we've really made a big push on outdoors is for everyone, no matter your race, no matter your abilities, no matter your religion. It's for everyone, and we want to be that welcoming presence. But beyond that, the numbers, and that's how you get the legislators to take note to you. So, almost 20 million in annual sales around these local businesses. 790 jobs supported annually through Greenway Construction. And that's, and as we all know, if you've been in this space, you're asking volunteers to do a lot of that. So at least it's jobs around those volunteer activities. So for every dollar that you spend, you're going to get $1.72 back.
So I think these stats are pretty compelling for what an investment, and it's not a small investment. $26 million is not small. But an investment in trail infrastructure and an investment in sustainability can yield returns that go back into the community, that go back into the destinations that are embracing these. As we heard from the Elkin example, and they're just one of many in North Carolina who are seeing this kind of renaissance in visitorship and people who are spending time outdoors and getting to areas they've never been to before because they never considered that place to be an outdoor destination. Or if they do consider it to be an outdoor destination, there are support structures, there are accessibility points, there are ways that people can enjoy the outdoors and feel free and feel welcomed, and infrastructure plays a huge, huge role in doing that. But all of this return on investment, there's a caveat to it. You have to protect your return on investment. Trails do not maintain themselves. The outdoors does not maintain itself. There are things, I talked about it before, there are things that happen when we all go outdoors, whether we're aware of it or not, that can cause lasting impacts outside that reduce the quality of the natural resource. And what happens when your destination's natural resources get diminished, visitors start looking elsewhere. So Heidi, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what the state is doing and the approaches you have for protecting this investment that you're making.
Sure. Well, the state overall is very protective of our public spaces. And once we started seeing this real influx of people coming to our outdoor spaces, we decided it was time to take a look at we as tourism professionals. What are we doing? How are we spreading the word? We're great at telling people to come, but how do we tell them, yeah, come, enjoy it, have a great time? And if you didn't know this, here's sort of the ethics of being outside, because every sport has ethics, right? And you don't necessarily learn those when you learn how to play the sport. So we partnered with Leave No Trace to come up with those 7 principles that could be specific to North Carolina, and to gently inform people who are not familiar with being outside what those impacts are that we've all done, and how they can ruin the experience for others. So we've been very successful with this. We seem to have great support throughout the state. And we're moving into a next phase, and part of that next phase is accessibility and overall sustainability.
Residents view protection of natural resources and promoting responsible visitation to communities very highly. It is sought after, and to the extent that what North Carolina has done as a model for us all to say how can we connect with the people in our state or the people in our destination to understand what the pressure points are, and the known research that's out there to say how can we help alleviate this pressure, while at the same time protecting these natural resources and inviting more people to come in. I think that contributes to what one of the facets that sustainability is all about. To close things out, all this trail infrastructure is great, but what's going on in 2023 in North Carolina around trails?
Well, some exciting news. In 2022, we opened a new state park. So we've got a lot of new trails there. We've got a lot of new trails just coming to the general areas. But overall, in 2023, we are going to celebrate the Year of the Trail in North Carolina. The governor has sent the proclamation, and it will be a year-long event about trails. And it's all non-motorized trails of any type. So it's going to be all year. It's going to be very exciting. There's going to be great trail cleanups, trail building, everything around it, and hopefully it will spread around the country and everybody will hear about it.
If you have the chance to spend any time in North Carolina in 2023, you will definitely hear about Year of the Trail, certainly before you get there, but while you're there as well. So this has just been a quick snapshot as to what the economic benefits and the returns look like when you invest in trails. So certainly a starting point for us, not the end. But I just want to say thank you to Heidi for her great insights around North Carolina. Let's give Heidi a hand. And we're going to continue to talk more about sustainability in these other ways, but trails are just one great way that you can start framing that for your destination. So, Greg, I'll toss it back to you.